I'll share a few thoughts from this week's memory verse and how it encouraged me. It's really encouraging to know that God does not forget our work and our service towards those in the church. And I think of it like this. When my daughter grows up, one day she's going to face a difficult situation, and perhaps one of you will be available to help her out. Or perhaps it's her birthday, and you do something wonderful for her birthday. And I would really appreciate and treasure that act of kindness that you show towards her. And perhaps you're someone who does a lot of good things, and you help a lot of other people in the church, and you might even help a lot of people outside the church. But the moment that you do something wonderful for my daughter, then I put you in a special category in my heart because I love my daughter so much. And so in the same way, I believe this verse is hinting at something towards that when we do something wonderful for God's children, his saints, God as a father would certainly not forget about it. So how does God remember? Does he write it down in a notebook? Does he just remember it in his mind? And I was reminded of Revelation chapter 19. And I believe that God will remember the wonderful works we've done for his church at the wedding of the church and Jesus. I say this because in Revelation chapter 19, we read about the marriage between Jesus and the church, his bride. And it says there that the church will be given fine linen, bright and clean, and that fine linen represents the righteous acts of the saints. And so I think of it like this. Whenever we do something good towards God's children, God takes a thread and he stitches a little part of that wedding dress. And then we do another righteous act, and then God takes another thread and stitches another part of that wedding dress. And then over time, this entire wedding dress is stitched up. And on that wonderful day when the church will be married to Jesus, that's where our righteous acts will be remembered. It's going to be on that wedding dress that the church will wear. So I thought it was just wonderful that in a most glorious day like that, God will still remember the good things we've done. And that was a tremendous encouragement to me. So what is the practical application of this? And for me, there were two things in which I thought I could apply this to my life. If God does not forget my work towards others, then I don't want to expect a thank you for my service. I say this because I've noticed when I've done something for someone, I always expect some sort of thank you or some sort of appreciation. I might not need them to repay me that same favor, but at least acknowledge and say thank you or show some sort of appreciation. And when I don't get that appreciation, it can be discouraging for me, and I might not want to do that same favor again for someone else. But I was reminded by this week's memory verse that if God remembers the work that I've done, what's it matter if another human doesn't remember what I've done or doesn't give thanks for what I've done? And the writer of Hebrews in the next verse encourages us to be diligent, to show this same diligence of doing good to others until the end. And I realize that I can't do good to others until the end if I keep relying on others' people's appreciation, but I can do good to the end if I simply remember that my Father will remember all the good works that I've done. And then the second way I want to apply this is that if God does not forget my works, then I do not want to forget the good works that other people have done to me. In other translations, it also says, God is not unrighteous to forget our works. And that word unrighteous stood out to me. And I learned something this week, that it's unrighteous if I forget the good that other people have done to me. And I've noticed it's easy to think of someone else in the church and have critical thoughts towards them, but realize that I haven't remembered the good that they've done to me. It's like that story that we've heard in church about this teacher who held up a piece of paper. And on this piece of paper was a black dot in the middle. And the teacher asked the children, what do you see on this paper? And all the children said, I see a black dot. But the real answer is, I see a white piece of paper with a little black dot in the middle. And so I believe that's our human nature, just to focus on the negative parts of someone. But through this memory verse, I was reminded, God remembers the good that I've done. So in the same way, I should remember the good that others have done to me. Otherwise, it would be unrighteous of me. So those are the things that have encouraged me and challenged me from this week's memory verse.
Good afternoon, family. For God is not unjust as to forget the work and your work and the love that you have shown towards his name. in having ministered and in still ministering to his saints, to the saints. It's a little bit difficult verse to remember, but the thing that stood out to me from this verse was the word unjust, and also translated as unrighteous. And it says God is not unrighteous. And the part that stood out to me, it goes together with what the Lord has been teaching me in the last few years. It's been several years, and it's been like a step-by-step process. And that is in the area of seeking to get free things, to get things for free. And I see in my nature that I have it. I have it in me that I want things for free. And I always just had that, I guess, attitude towards people that I'd rather get a deal and I want to get things for free. And the Lord has been changing my heart in the last several years, and pretty much came to a point that step by step growing, not to seek that. And there was a point that I thought, okay, I'm free from it, and then it came again. I'm like, oh, okay, I still have more to grow. And I have another part that is a situation that happened at work recently, and it was a coworker that I was managing. He just randomly quit. And since I was his manager, I was going to find out what happened. But he just disappeared, stopped responding to calls. And I was not really involved with him. I was not working together. So I went to people he worked with, and they said there was some tension. But he left tools at work. And I went to found these tools, this bag that they told me, and it's expensive tools. So I messaged him, called him, and said, hey, you left these tools. No response at all. And it's probably some time went by. And recently I came back to the job site, or some people said, oh, we'll clean them and we'll just keep them here. And I was walking by and I saw this bag, and I looked into it. Those were the tools. And I had a thought, oh, okay, he just kind of left us and disappeared. And the Lord spoke to me, no, you should return those tools. I'm like, well, he's like hours away in a different city. And I was like, mail them. I was like, okay. So I'll grab these tools and mail them. And I just learned from that God's like, you don't know what happened in that situation. Don't expect that, oh, he did something and I guess it was negative towards us, but we don't know. And I don't know what happened to that person in that situation. As far as I know, he's okay, but we don't know the motives and the reasons. And so God taught me that respect people's things and give it back to them. Don't expect to get things for free. And a few men that resemble this character of God that I learned from the Bible. One is Abraham in Genesis 25, when he was buying the field for the burial of Sarah, his wife. And the people honored him so much, and they wanted to give him this field for free. They said, here, you can take it, especially when he's going through this sorrow, he just lost his wife. And he stood firm. He said, no, I'm not going to take it for free. I'm going to pay the full price. And I saw that he grew in the Lord, that he had that character in him, the heart. And the second one is David, when he came to the threshing floor, and he was going to buy it and also make a sacrifice. And there, the man also said, take it, and you can have it. And all the animals, he said, no. Said, I will not offer burnt offerings to the Lord my God, which cost me nothing. And so I'm learning through the past years, and even now, and through this verse, it reminded me to not seek anything for myself for free. But I must be led by the Spirit. And Jesus also accepted gifts. But my life on earth, I want to live the testimony I want to leave behind and leave to the people around me and to God and to even the devil, that I'm a man not seeking to get something, but to give something. So I pray that God helps me with that.
Hi, family. I want to share from Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. It says, but the righteous will live by faith, by his faith. This was a foundational verse for the church reformation. And the previous verse is, it talks about a vision. Though it tarries, wait for it will certainly come, it will not delay. But the righteous will live by his faith. Here I see that the righteous person, the Bible describes here, he's not living by faith in few areas of his life, but that is his lifestyle. Lifestyle of a righteous man is a life of faith. It's not just few circumstances when the trials come, I'm going to trust God, and worried and anxious about many other things. That's not the life of faith. The righteous lifestyle is a life of faith. In these days, as we have so much of information available so easily, I have found myself, like many of the decisions that I make are based on the data that I have. That is living by sight, rather than by seeking God, to hear from God first, through His Word, through prayer. Because I work in a technology company, many of the decisions we make are just purely based on data. In fact, they say we believe in God, but we need data for any decision they make. So any issue that comes up in my life, be it health or kids' future or my future, career, whatever, I'm finding that my first resort is to search up all the information, all the data that is available, to make a decision or to come to rest about certain thing. Recently, I watched a video like you should not even go to google.com for many of the health things because you'll get more scared because they write so many things. But that is my first resort to go to God first. This verse particularly challenges me to live by faith. Of course, reasoning is needed, but it has to be subject to the faith. When the life appears to be complicated, when I don't know what to do, I want to learn more and more to cling to my dad's hand and let him lead me through these confusing and convoluted paths. I may not understand all the Lord's dealings of my life, but I want to faithfully proclaim that He knows the plans He has for me, the plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give me hope and future, Jeremiah 29:11. And I want to rest in the fact that He has precious thoughts towards me, Psalms 139 verse 17. In this context, the Lord reminded me about two people in the Bible who demonstrated this life of faith. The first one is Jeremiah. Jeremiah, in chapter 32, we see that Jeremiah was asked by God to purchase a field, and the timing was not good. When the city was seized by Chaldeans, in Jeremiah 32:25, he says, "You have said to me, O Lord God, buy for yourself the field with money and call in witnesses, although the city is given into the hand of the Chaldeans." So Jeremiah had to purchase the field with his own money, and he has put the down payment of faith by buying the field. Because there is a great promise that God has given. Later in that verses, it says, verse 41, Jeremiah 32:41, "I will rejoice over them to do them good and will faithfully plant them in this land with all my heart and all my soul." And there is a beautiful promise again in verse 27. It says, "Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is there anything too difficult for me?" So the act of buying the field was a statement of Jeremiah's trust in God's faithfulness, that He would fulfill His promise in the future. He has not seen it, and the current circumstances are completely contrary to what He's doing. The most rational person would not do that. Why would, even the city is under siege, why would I spend my money on that? But Jeremiah is putting that, the Lord said, I'm going to put my down payment on that. During the most difficult and uncertain times, my desire is that I bring delight to my dad's heart by making those decisions out of faith, not out of fear. The second example I want to share is from the life of Caleb. Turn with me to Numbers 30, chapter 13. Verse 30 says, "Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said," this is in the context of the spies coming back and giving the report, and everyone is frightened because they were thinking that there were giants and We cannot go further, but Caleb and Joshua are speaking the language of faith. Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, "We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will surely overcome it." And again, chapter 14, verse 9, "Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not fear the people of the land, for they will be our prey. Their protection has been removed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them." I like the word it says when he says they will be our prey. We can feed on them. Their protection has been removed. We can certainly overcome them. And then God testifies about Caleb in chapter 14, verse 24. "But my servant Caleb, because he has had a different spirit and has followed me fully, I will bring into the land which he entered, and his descendants shall take possession of it." He had a different spirit, and he followed the Lord fully, wholeheartedly. He did not doubt God's promises. Though they were giants, he had the faith that they will be my prey and I will overcome. I want that kind of faith. And we see that Caleb's faith is not changing from glory to glory, from strength to strength, even at the age of 85. Let's read Joshua chapter 14, verse 10 and 11. It says, "Now behold, the Lord has let me live just as he spoke. These 45 years, he was 40 when he went as a spy, now he's 85. These 45 years from the time that the Lord spoke this word to Moses, when Israel walked in the wilderness, and now behold, I am 85 years old today. I am still as strong today as I was in the day Moses sent me. As my strength was then, so my strength is now, for war and for going out and coming in." This verse tells me that Caleb's faith grew stronger and stronger. Even at the age of 85, he wants to go and conquer. In these examples, I see that Jeremiah and Caleb did not just confess their faith. "Oh, yes, Lord, you're going to bring..." Jeremiah did not say, "Yeah, I know you're going to bring everyone back, but I'm not going to do. I know that you're going to do." But here Jeremiah put his money to buy the field. Caleb put his life. He knows that God will take care of him. He's going to overcome. So he had to put their down payment, and God will do his work. It's like I want to trust God's word like this. I was thinking about this example. Suppose after 4 years, if Joey goes to college and then he's in need of money, and I say, yeah, I'm going to send it in the next 1 hour. And then he has to pay some tuition fees, and I say, "Go and pay, give the check, I'm going to send it in this next 1 hour." But he says, no, Daddy, show me the proof that you transferred the money, then only I'll go and give the check. That will be an insult for me. He has to take me at my word. Likewise, God is expecting me to take him at his word and not doubt him, and live a lifestyle of faith, not just in few circumstances, but it has to be part of my life. Thank you.